Well, I miss being here. That's number one. That's for sure. Miss seeing all of you. It's good to be back home. And for those who don't know sort of the situation that we've been in, I will try to catch you up on what has been happening with our family. So today, I tried earlier this week to prepare the next one on the book of Acts, but I couldn't. It's kind of difficult. So today we're going to talk about mourning, not mourning as in night and morning, but mourning in the sense of grieving, which is sort of where we've been. And even if you have not lost anybody recently, if you haven't gone through any tragic events, mourning is not something that is experienced only in those contexts. In fact, mourning is one of the ways we are reminded that we're still human, because we are grieving all the time. We are grieving over friendships that end. We are grieving over problems at work. We are grieving over mistakes that we made. We are constantly mourning. Mourning is a way to make sense of things, to trying to find meaning in that which seems meaningless. So today I want to talk about that, because that's what's been in my mind lately. Very short. I don't have much to say today. And our verse is John 11:35, and for those who like Bible quizzes and trivia, it's the shortest verse in the Bible, right? Just 2 words. Jesus wept. I've been coming back to these words lately. That's what you'll find there. So let's catch up a little bit. 2 weeks ago, family was prepared to go out on vacation. Vacation is not something I do much. Even when I leave Santa Fe, it's normally for a few days and normally in between Saturdays, so I can be here or in Los Alamos and not skip one because I just love being here. It's not even because I'm a workaholic, because I'm not. I just like being here. I like what I do, right? But it still doesn't mean we get tired emotionally. I mean, you know that Paula's dad, we've been praying for him. He had brain cancer, and that's been an ongoing thing. It's very difficult for her, very difficult for all of us to cope with reality. You know, we don't think about reality. We go on our day-to-day tasks and things that we do, our jobs, our relationships, our breakfasts, our meals, and we don't think about reality, the coldness of reality. Death is one of the way reality catches up to us. So when a parent, a family member is suffering that way, reality slowly creeps into our everyday and takes away the taste of things, the color of things, the joy of things. It's a difficult thing. So we've been grieving already. When somebody gets sick, as Paula's dad has, it's an ongoing sort of experience of grieving. The person hasn't died yet, but it's as if they're slowly going away. So there's that. We've been going through that, and it's difficult. So vacation was coming up. My parents flew in from Korea. We were supposed to meet in Lake Tahoe with the kids so they could play on the beach. My brother flew in from Maryland to see the family again. It was supposed to be a wonderful family reunion. So we got there Tuesday. Wednesday was a wonderful day. We hiked up this beautiful mountain and with a lake up top, which wasn't Lake Tahoe, it was another lake up, I think Eagle Lake, what's called. Was just a beautiful day, the best ever, right? Family laughing, enjoying each other. Thursday morning, Paula gets a call. She starts crying, and immediately I think her father died. I mean, we've been prepared for this. But her cry wasn't a regular, I knew this was coming kind of cry. It was different. And then I said, I'm sorry, it's going to, and then she just turned her phone to me. And basically her sister had written her, Mom died. I just found Mom dead by the bed. She probably had heart failure. The beauty of it is that it seems that because her mother was also suffering a lot with her husband being in the condition he was in, that the place that they found her in, I haven't shared this much, or haven't shared this at all. They found her by the bed, and everything indicates that she woke up to pray in the morning. So even though it's sad to me, I always told Paul, it's a beautiful image of of somebody who carried her faith with her prayers with her up until the very last moment of life. So she was praying, probably had heart failure, and just fell down to the side, and her sister found her in the morning, rode Paula. And that was the violent part, right? Because it's one thing to expect a parent to die. It's awful when that happens. The expectation was obviously her dad, but her mom still had dreams, still had plans to visit us. She never came to visit us in our house here. It's hard, and that's where reality becomes difficult, because it's a break. It's unnatural. It's unfair. It's just violent, really. So obviously, you never know how you're going to react in those times. Paula was already a mess because it was just unprecedented. So I said, honey, go take a shower, cry, scream, do your thing. And after you come out, we'll figure it out. So she came out. I said, I'm going to buy you a ticket to go to Brazil to see if you'll be able to make it to the funeral, because in Brazil it's within 48 hours. It's not like here. You can wait as long as you want. You just have to go. So she wasn't in the right mind to do that. I said, hey, just don't worry. I'm going to get you a ticket right now. One way. You don't have to worry about when you're going to come back. Just go. And I'll keep the kids here. I wish we could all go, but we can't. And the kids have their grandparents here. I mean, I don't want to pull them into that situation either. So what was supposed to be vacation ended up just being this emotional roller coaster for all of us. Paula flew down to Brazil. She was there for the funeral. She was a mess. She still is. She's at home, and she sent apricots for all of you, by the way. So she loves all of you. She's grateful for the prayers, for the support. But as you all know, she just didn't want to be in a place where everybody's focused on her. She might disappear for a little while, and she has my full support for that. Even though she said that she's going to be at church next week, I said, just don't make any problem. Just stay. You're fine. It's a long time for healing, and that's what we're going to do. So that's what's been happening with our family. I'm grateful for the support of all you, the prayers, the cards. I have no words to say how loved we have felt, maybe more than ever here in Santa Fe, as we went through this experience and as you cared for my wife. So it's just been special for me. It's been hard. Paula was gone. I had the kids. Vacation turned into daddy daycare, full time. So I might be more tired than when I left, but it's okay. I'm ready to go back to work. I missed it. But that's what we've been experiencing. It's been hard. And I've been thinking a lot about this, about the questions. The many times Paula called me because I tried to speak with her throughout. I wasn't there, so it's horrible not to be with the person you love when they're in that much of I've never seen her this way before, ever. So Paula shared several things with me during that experience. The anger, the frustration, pointing to God and saying, why? What is this? And not for 1 second I said, honey, you should. I always said, no, this is precisely the feeling. And you should feel all of those feelings. I think there's ample space for all of those feelings. But I think back to our situation here, you might not have lost anybody as Paula has recently, but you might be still suffering, grieving, mourning the difficulties of reality in your own context. And when we feel overwhelmed, when we feel tired, we get sensitive. And we sort of are in a place where I love to be with people where there's no barriers anymore. We're just in reality mode. There's no masks, there's no faking, there's no little catchphrase that will solve things. There are no catchphrases that will solve things. You're just there. It's hard. What steps? The grieving steps? Sure, yeah. You can do that while I talk. So when tragedy strikes, no matter what it is for all of you, and we all feel overwhelmed when it does, whatever it may be for you, we found ourselves in a place that is hard to put things together. You felt that way, yes? You see the pieces, the broken pieces, and we're overwhelmed because we're unable to put the picture together. Paula has been repeating a lot lately the phrase, I cannot understand this, which sort of conveys that feeling. I don't understand. I can't understand it. The inability to put the pieces together. She says, I know it happened, I know the facts, but I just don't understand. There's a philosopher that I read frequently now these days since I discovered her called Cora Diamond. And she writes, thank you. This is the steps of grieving, yeah? Bargaining, denial, anger, depression. And it takes, hopefully, some people don't even, yeah. It takes a long time and some people don't even get there, right? Yeah. Yeah, just stay over here. Yeah. 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 And I feel like just looking at this, Paula has been through, for sure, all of these in the last couple of weeks, for sure. I have been through there. But anyway, yes, thank you for putting that up there for people who are not familiar with it. Philosopher Cora Diamond writes that this feeling of I don't understand, I can't put it together, happens. We feel this because we are trying, she says, to bring together in thought what cannot be thought. Again, we feel these things because we're trying to bring together in thought what cannot be thought. It is a type of unhappiness that does not fall within the scope of what we normally understand as happy or unhappy. I'm happy, I found $1. I'm unhappy, bird caught my dollar from my hand. This, what we're dealing with here, is beyond these little things. It's a different kind, different category of unhappiness. And consciously or unconsciously, we try, when we are found in such context, ways to evade these feelings. So we settle in trying to evade for ideas, for catchphrases, for cheap explanations, even theological ones. Oh, God wanted it this way. And I always say, no, He did not. God bless you. You go with your faith, but I'm not there with you. But we settle for these things because we're trying to make sense. We're trying to have a grasp on a situation that is ungraspable. Yeah. Try to bargain. Thank you, Dolores. So yeah, we settle and we try to avoid disappointment as best as we can. We try to move away from real feelings so we stay up in the ladder of things. So today I wanted to share simply several ideas, the first of them being that we cannot evade these feelings, right? We just have to be okay. Whatever, again, you're going through in your life right now that causes you to be angry, depressed, overwhelmed, it's okay to feel that way. It's easy to try to evade. It's easy to try to find a grasp because we live in a modern world. And modernity has told us to have a hold on all things, control of all things. And the problem is that reality teaches us time and time again daily that we do not have control over anything, including you. Oh, my mother-in-law who died, heart failure, the healthiest person I knew. You can try to have control over things, but we can't control grief. We can't control suffering. We can't control despair. We cannot, and that's the difficulty of reality. We try to have control and we feel overwhelmed and anxious because we don't. We can't put that together either. So the first thing I wanted to share is that we cannot evade feelings. Reality is hard. It is not easy to understand, and it is okay to not understand reality. It's okay. We can't. Some things do not make sense. And normally for Christians, it's easy just to toss it up. Yeah, but God knows. It's difficult. It's difficult. It is okay to face the fact that reality is difficult sometimes. And it is here that mourning becomes more than just grieving. We grieve. It's a feeling. It's a response to something that happens. We don't say, okay, I'm going to grieve now. It just happens. But mourning is a creative, intentional movement, action from us. So when we are dealing with the fact that we cannot understand things, that it is okay to feel the feelings that we feel, suddenly we are beyond just the response, natural response, and now we're trying to put things together, even if the putting together means I can't put it together. So it becomes a deeply human activity of trying to make sense of things and being okay with the things that do not make sense. Freud, famous psychotherapist, psychoanalyst, would say, right, mourning is one of the constitutive elements of what makes us human. Freud talked about mourning as one of the constitutive elements, primary elements of what makes us human. Animals, plants die, come and go, and we are the ones trying to make sense of things. They grieve, by the way. When a pet loses an owner, they grieve. I've seen it. But mourning is a human activity. It's interesting because we're trying to make sense of it, trying to find meaning in it. The tragedy we experience as a family lately, that we all have to face in our own context, like I said, in different ways, have no explanation sometimes. That's what I've been trying to tell Paula. It doesn't make sense. I said, honey, it doesn't. It's because it doesn't. It doesn't. There are no explanations. It falls, and this is why I've always had difficulties with Christian funerals. I think the worst one was at Andrews when I was a student there, and a child died, like a 3-year-old child. Parent ran over the child coming out of the grave. It was awful. It was awful. The little coffin, it was just awful. And I never heard anything more violent to human sensibilities than what the pastor shared that day. Never. I just could not hold. I just said, this is. It had no room for mourning, no room for feelings, no room for anger. It's just like we should not feel because God. And I think that was one of the first instances where I saw it for the first time. I said, this makes no sense to me. This makes no sense to me. I could not imagine what was going through. And then when the mother came up to, I don't know how, the mother goes up to speak, that was spiritual. That was deeply spiritual because you heard it in the voice. Lack of words. I don't know. That's faith to me. I can't put it together. There's ample room for whatever God is doing to do. But when I come, so you understand the picture. It's difficult. So yeah, it falls beyond reason and logic. In mourning, this deeply human activity places us in that mode of acceptance, of resistance, of feeling the feelings of healing. Mourning is an important element in the path of healing. No matter, again, what we are all going through. I'm sharing what we have gone through. Yes, Nora? Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Back to the hospital, yeah. Yeah. From the bite, yeah. What's the point? Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. It is hard, Nora. It is hard. You felt it. For those watching at home, Nora just shared. They've been through so much, Nora and Carlos, lately. In fact, I see you more in the hospital these days than at your home. Right, Nora? That's the situation. They've been through a lot. Nora was bitten by a dog. Carlos has been through so many health trials, going into surgery in August again. So, and what she just shared is like, it's hard. But notice that she didn't say, it's hard, Pastor, but. No, there's no but. It's hard. That's it. It is hard. And I think the role of a community of faith is not necessarily to correct the feeling of the other, to adjust where they are in their journey, but create spaces where we can share in that hardness. some remnant of what it means to be human still in this country, in this world. Of course, please. This is, for those visiting us, it might be weird when people raise their hands. This is how it's been throughout history. It's okay. Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. That's it. That's it. Dolores sharing about her son for those watching at home. Yeah, you've been through a lot with her. And not only to mention mom. Yeah, Greg, it's been through a lot. You've been through a lot too, Dolores. That's what you're saying. I'm just repeating it for people who are watching because they can't hear you. The mic is here, and I've received complaints. So, yes, it's hard to make sense of things that do not make sense. And that's the part of the control, right? How many times have we heard, right? I raise you to be this way, I raise you to be this way. Guess what? We have no control over anything. If we only read the Bible, right? You get a little picture. It's always been there in front of us. Adam and Eve created perfect by God Himself. Follow the devil. Go figure. Cain and Abel. We gave them a solid education. Sorry, one kills the other. Again, those stories are there for a reason. Lynn mentioned it earlier, to give us wisdom, yes, but to make in our mind, in our imagination, room. For when we experience these things, we have a resource. We have a memory that doesn't solve the problem, but places us in communion, in community with so many others before us. So again, the role of a community of faith is to create that kind of space. So the text that I've been going back to is the story of Lazarus in John. I'm going to read it just a little bit, and then I'm going to share. I don't feel like doing much right now. I think I'm blessed by everything I've heard from you guys. But I just wanted to show you something that I've never seen until I read it this week. It's because I'm in that space, and that's the fascinating thing about biblical reading, is that the reading changes when you're in a different place. That's when it becomes truly not just texts, but truly there's a possibility that the Word, the living Word, is conveying something from within, from outside, bringing things together. Back to Ephesians, the mission of God is not to cross, to save you, resurrection. Those are all pieces of the puzzle. The mission of God is bringing unity of all things in heaven and earth. And everything in between is leading toward that end. So that's it. Let me read to you the piece of the story. John 11, verse 17. Let's jump. You know the story. Lazarus, good friend of Jesus, died. Now, what I want you to notice here is how people respond to death, which is, again, does not make sense, incomprehensible, unfair, violent. You'll see in the story why. So just notice the responses. And notice how close these responses are to our responses when we're mourning and not able to put the pieces together. And then I will add to you what makes sense to me today from this story. All right? Me. So I'm not going to say, oh, this is the biblical... No, I'm not worried. I'm sharing me. How this word resounds in me now. Verse 17. Now when Jesus came, because He waited. He heard his friend died. He waited several days and then showed up. Now when Jesus came, He found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb 4 days. Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles off, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary, His sisters, to console them concerning their brother. So when Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met Him, but Mary remained in the house. That's the first one right there. It's right in front of you, and I never saw it. My brother died. Jesus is here. One goes, the other... it's just, I get that. That's where I go when I'm mourning. I just don't want to see anybody. I don't want to talk to anybody, and I'm trying to generate emotional energy to do my job as a pastor, which is being there for all of you, right? But isn't this close to our experience? First reaction in the story, isolation. That doesn't mean that people are not going to try to find community. That's what Martha runs toward. In fact, it's interesting because the previous time Jesus meets the two, Mary is the one who goes toward community, and Martha is the one serving in the kitchen, which is interesting. But anyway, Martha runs this time. Mary just can't. Guess what? That's okay. That's okay. Some, when they're grieving, they go to church. Some stay home. Guess what? That's okay. Some go to God and pray and open the Bible to hear what He wants to say, and some do absolutely nothing, and guess what? That's okay. That's okay. All right? First thing that happens, one runs, the other stays. So Martha said to Jesus, verse 21, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Oh, interesting one. That's the second response. What is it? How do you read it? I read it, she's just trying to find the cause. It's on you. If you were here, I would. You see the logic? They're trying to put the pieces together. And they've been talking to each other, because when Mary meets Jesus, she's going to say the exactly same thing. If you had been here, we would not be going through this. Paula has asked this 1,000 times the last 2 weeks. Why was God not there? Why is He? Why the people out there who are doing evil on an hourly basis, getting paid millions to cause destruction of lives and in the environment, they're alive and well, but my mother, praying, has to die. Why? I do not understand. If you had been there, this would not have happened. Guess what? That's okay. That's okay. To experience it. If he was or wasn't there, for her, he was not there. That's the experience of those who grieve. You were not there. Now, for a parent, it's a hard, because if Jesus is truly, right, this visible manifestation of love and life and the love of the Father, what kind of father leaves his children behind like that? And that's the question that many atheists have with no answer, and they're better off than many of us for asking them. Because we feel weird. We feel it's a mistake to question God, to fight with God. Well, not this lady here. It's on you. And guess what? Jesus takes it. He takes it. Because yes, God is responsible. We did not ask to be here in this world. We did not ask to be born whatever way we were born. We did not ask to be born in the cause. He is responsible. So He takes it. He doesn't turn to Martha and say, let me correct you for a second. Let me correct your theology. Hey, you shouldn't be talking to me that way. He understands. He can take it. If you were here, and Jesus just turns to her, friend, this is not the end. Your brother's going to rise again. Martha said to him, and this is sort of the third reaction, I know the theology. So we get theological, don't we? I know there's resurrection. I know there is life. I know all these things, but it still doesn't put the puzzle together, you see. And that's why we fail too in these discussions, because we think throwing in a couple of verses is going to solve the equation. Guess what? For Martha, Mary, and many, it does not. And it's okay. And it's okay. What we find in Martha and later in Mary is this resistance toward God. I know, but it still doesn't make sense. That's in the Word of God right here. Yeah, Gene. Oh, no, yeah. We love to explain, right? We want the explanations. Because the more we explain, the more control we have over the situation. And then reality will kick in eventually. That's always my prayer. I hope they find reality. Because when reality comes, then you'll always question your control over anything. So yes, we love the explanations. The theological. Yes, I know he will rise again in the resurrection in the last day. Very Jewish. We share that insight, right? That in the last day, this story ends in life. We know those things. Still doesn't add up. Then Jesus says the beautiful words that we know. I am the resurrection and the life. Everyone who believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? He says, yes, Lord. I do believe. But I can feel the heart of this. I still can't. When she has said this, she went and called her sister Mary, saying in private, the teacher is here and he is calling for you. And when she heard it, she rose quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet come into the village, was still in the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who were with her in the house consoling her saw Mary rise quickly and go out, they followed her. So now it's Martha, it's Mary, and it's a whole little group around Jesus, approaching the village. When Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet, saying, Lord, same reasoning, if you had been here, this would not have happened. Same thing. When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in his spirit, and he greatly trembled. And he said, Lord, come and see. Then we have our verse, Jesus wept. So the Jews said, see how he loved him. But some of them said, could not he who opened the eyes of the blind also have kept this man from dying? That's another one. When doubt. Paula had that too lately. He has the power. He is able. Then why not? We take it personally. And we should. For the things that happen to us, we should. Because we need to mourn. We need to make that. We need to be in that space where reality kicks in. And we're not just leaving in theological or whatever philosophical spaces where we have explanations for things. We don't. And maybe when we go through that process, when we see people suffering, guess what? We'll say, yeah, I understand. The doubt. So we see all these. I've never seen this before. I never read the story before like this. Isolation causes the theological, the doubt. Man, the theological, it's fascinating to me. Mary knows. I know there's going to be a resurrection. I know you are who you are. I know all these things, and yet does not make sense. So this is interesting because when Jesus does end up in the story resurrecting Lazarus and saying all these things, all of these things are not new, are they? She knows there will be a resurrection. She knows Jesus is capable of doing things. They know Jesus is able to do anything. And so to me, that's not, at least right now, the point of the story at all. They knew it. There's nothing new in the story when you consider what happens. Lazarus comes out. Sure, it was new to the people there. Like, whoa, this is crazy. This is unbelievable. Sure. But to us reading this, we know there's going to be a resurrection. We know you are the life. I believe that you are the resurrection. That's good. And then he resurrects Lazarus. It's all good. The one thing that's new, the one thing that's striking to me and extremely deeply revelatory about the God we claim to serve is that God weeps. That's it. One little verse in the middle of all of it to remind us that in the midst of our mourning, our isolation, our causes, our questions, our doubts, in the midst of it, there is a God who grieves with us. And that's not the answer, by the way. I'm not saying, this is not the answer. It's just that this is what it means to be people of faith. And this is not again then there's, now I can feel okay. No, there's no feeling okay. But in the midst of the no feeling okay, there are more. There is more. There is a God also not feeling okay. So to me, the idea that Jesus weeps is a powerful idea. It reveals the heart of a God we cannot see, and a pathos, an empathy, something that is unprecedented. I mean, you just read about gods anywhere. The Greek gods are all powerful. All of these gods throughout history have power and have, mood swings and all these things. But rarely do we find this humanness of grief in a being that is love. So yeah, even though Jesus knows what he will do to Lazarus, even though he knows what he will do for humanity one day in the end, he still weeps. Because in a way, he also is feeling that inability to put things together. And you know what Jesus, I think, cannot put together? Because couldn't he just swing the hand and allow things? Why doesn't he? I have no idea. So there are things that even God is not able to single-handedly just put together the way we wish he would. So I feel there's something happen even within the divine that places us in commonality with him. There is a brokenness there that is powerful to think about. So yes, even though Jesus knows the end, he knows what he's about to do for Lazarus, he still weeps. And he weeps because, and I love Jose Pagula, famous author that I love to read about. He wrote on this text the following. He says that Jesus weeps, and then I'm putting in the pudding. He's finding it difficult to put things together. What is it difficult to putting together? He writes, he weeps because he sees the enormous distance that exists between the suffering of human beings and the life that God desires for all. Can you imagine what it is like? You look at the suffering in the world, you look at I looked at Paul and had to hear her and not be... You wish you were able just to make balance and make... You can't. Jesus weeps because he knows. And since then, has there been suffering in this little world of ours? Yes. So he weeps because he sees the suffering, but he also sees the life that God wants for his children. The life that he tried to convey in his teachings. The life that this word, this living word is pulling us toward, that we can embrace now. That doesn't alleviate, that doesn't eliminate the sufferings, but it places us in this commonality with the God of love that is bringing all things together in heaven and on earth. So we mourn, yes. We suffer, yes. We carry unanswered questions with us, yes. But in our mourning, it's good to know we're not alone. He weeps. He walks with us. He knows the way. And we hope for a new day, a new heaven, a new earth, and the unity of all of these things that right now are completely and profoundly broken apart. Let's pray. Father, thank you. Help us. We believe. Forgive our unbelief. In the name of Jesus, amen.